evening and welcome again to the Marty Heiser Show. You know, you can't swing a cat in this studio right now without hitting an incredibly interesting and informative author. Tonight, it's wall-to-wall offers. We're going to start with a guy named Rusty Rustenbach. Can you imagine if your last name was Rustenbach and you have a child, you go, what should we call him? Let's call him Rusty. And you saddle that guy with that name, Rusty Rustenbach. A good friend of mine, and he wrote a book on, get this, healing prayer. And he's going to tell his story and talk about his book, Healing Prayer, and I think it's going to have a good impact on a lot of people. And then after that, my new very best friend in the world, Drew Berman, Ridgefield's own Drew Berman, is going to be right here in the studio. So on the second half of the show, you can call in at 438-2003 and ask your questions for Drew. And he's going to be talking about all things network marketing. He's going to break it down. I promise you, you're going to be able to find stuff that you can apply to your life and to your business. So second half, Drew Berman. First half, Rusty Rustenbach. Let's go to the videotape. Okay. Welcome again to the Marty Heiser Show. You know, there are certain people in your life, if you're lucky, that have an influence on your life at a turning point. I was a naive, young freshman at University of Oregon. Yes, that school, the Mighty Ducks, out in Eugene, Oregon. You see, I grew up in Chicago and I was a difficult child. So my parents wanted to send me as far away as they possibly could. They couldn't send me to Hawaii, but Oregon seemed about as far away. If you raised me, you'd understand why. But so I went to University of Oregon for my first 2 years, and when I did, I met the next guest on our show, Mr. Rusty Rustenbach. He was on staff with a Christian organization called the Navigators, and we have been friends certainly intensely for those 2 years while I was a duck, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And he's written a book called Listening and Inner Healing Prayer, and it is my privilege to invite Rusty Rustenbach to the show.
It's good to be here, Marty.
Thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome.
So what were your, what was your memory of how we first met out in Eugene, Oregon?
I remember that you wanted to have an investigative study in your dorm, the Smith Hall. Yeah. And so we made a deal. And when I met you, I thought, oh, he's probably not going to be able to have anyone come to this study. And I think the deal was that I would lead the study. So you set up a night, and I came over. And I think there were about 15 guys there.
Yeah, it was.
Very unusual. Yeah. And so we had this study week after week, I think for about 10 weeks. Uh-huh. And almost all of those young men came to faith in Christ. And they were called the Smith Brothers.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a wild time.
It was great. That was 1980 and 81, those 2 years.
Yes, it was.
So that was my freshman year and sophomore year in University of Oregon. You know, we've had different guests on this show, and we've had Russian Olympic grade athletes. We've had women that have suffered from domestic violence. We've had incredibly wealthy people, and they all talk about having this relationship with Jesus Christ, surrendering their life to Christ. It seems to cross demographics, age, and what is your story? When you talk to, you know, we're not in a church, so there are people just tuning in, and you say, oh, relationship with Christ. What is your story? What are we talking about, I mean, as far as what it means to become a Christian?
Well, I grew up just down I-95 in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and neither of my parents were Christians, and so, you know, went to school. I think in my teen years, I was really looking for something that would make my life work, a purpose, and I didn't find anything, so I got pretty heavily involved in drinking, partying, that kind of thing. And in those years, if you didn't go away to college, you would end up in the military, drafted. Okay. And so I was going to be drafted, and I enlisted so I could choose what branch, what facet of the military I would work in. And I was also trying to avoid going to Vietnam, and within 1 year of my enlistment, I ended up in Vietnam. Wow. And what happened to me in Vietnam is I started to get involved in drugs. And I would say of my year in Vietnam, I probably was high almost every day.
Wow.
And when I came back, I continued using drugs and began to sell them. And I was in the U.S. Army, and so I was sent to Okinawa, which was unusual because I only had 8 months left in the service. And while I was in Okinawa, there was a guy named Robin who he also smoked pot with the group, and we used to listen to music. Didn't see Robin for a little while, and he came around to the apartment off base with a Bible under his arm and told me that Jesus Christ had changed his life. And I thought he had absolutely flipped out.
Yeah.
I'd never met anyone that said something like that. And I got in a big argument with him and pointed out all of the inconsistencies in the Bible, which of course I had never read. And so, but he kept coming back, and so instead of listening to music, we would talk about God. And in these conversations, we've really focused especially on Jesus. I noticed something odd started to happen, because I was initially in the group, you know, that was anti-Jesus in these discussions, and slowly I started to move. And so, well, Jesus was a unique person, because I was beginning to read the Bible and was just really attracted to the person of Christ. But I knew that Jesus was outside of my life, and that I hadn't put my faith in him. And so one night I was laying in my bunk in Okinawa thinking, well, Rusty, you've tried just about everything to make life work. Why not try Christ? And so I invited Christ to come into my life. That was right around Christmas of 1970.
Wow. And
Christ came into my life, and some of the initial changes, you know, I used to swear a lot, use God's name in vain. And I didn't purpose not to swear anymore, but I would let out one of those big swear words with God's name in it, and I'd think, wow, that doesn't feel right saying that, you know, I shouldn't do that. So God began to clean up my language. One of the first things, though, I should say, is my desire to take drugs was taken away.
Wow.
And because I wouldn't say I was physiologically addicted, but I was certainly psychologically addicted.
Mainly marijuana or hash?
Well, we went the whole 9 yards. I was at a point in my life where I would do anything to get high. Wow. And now later I realized it's because I had a lot of baggage going on underneath the surface, which is why I ended up writing this book.
Yeah, and by the way, if we get a close-up shot of the book, that'd be great too. The book is called Listening and Inner Healing Prayer by Rusty Rustenbach. Now, if people go on like Amazon or something like that.
It's on Amazon.
Okay, yeah, hold it on there if you could. Listening and Inner Healing Prayer. It's by NAB Press, and that's your book. So once you became a Christian, in the sense, surrendered your life to Christ,
yes.
What you're telling me is it didn't turn into an instant Disneyland experience and everything was fine, but there were still some issues in your life. And tell me a little bit about that, because it seems like that's what ended up in that book.
Well, truth is, after I put my faith in Christ, it was a pretty radical change, and my life began to have purpose and meaning, and I wanted to spend all the time I could, getting to know God better through the Bible, but also in serving Him and helping other people come to know Him. And so that's about when I ran into a group called the Navigators and got very involved with them. But eventually went to college, met a woman in college and got married. And we felt like God spoke to us, so we ended up going, well, first to the University of Oregon so we could meet Marty.
Right.
And then we ended up going to Spain. And about halfway through our time in Spain, sort of the bottom kind of dropped out. And in that time in my life, I had basically 3 emotional states that I was aware of. One would be that I was encouraged, another would be that I was discouraged, and a third would be that I was angry. And
but if I can just have you right there,
yes,
because sometimes people when they hear like, oh, I became a Christian and I
yes,
have Jesus in my heart, and oh, happy day, every day is sunny, and Jesus is in my heart, and everything's fine, and it's almost as if they put up a little bit of a facade. And you know, what's the shortest verse in the Bible?
Jesus wept.
Jesus wept. So those of you need to memorize a Bible verse, Jesus wept. Now you got your first Bible verse memorized. But I don't think that accurately reflects what the Bible talks about with walking with Jesus Christ is really talking about taking up your cross and following me. So
yes,
when you say, I was delivered from drugs, I accepted Christ and began to read the Bible, then you started your ministry, and you're in Spain, but you're dealing with this discouragement.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes I think Christianity is, I don't want to say oversold, but it isn't accurately portrayed. So what did that bring about in you?
Well, one of the things is when I got married and began to have, my wife's name is Janet, and when we began to have children, my wife would complain to me periodically that I wasn't a very good father.
Get out. You got the same thing?
Yeah.
I periodically.
And that I would never open up my heart with her, that I wouldn't share my emotions. But also being fruitful in ministry became almost like a bit of an obsession for me. And what I realized about halfway through our time in Spain is I grew up in a home, a blue-collar family in Philadelphia. Both my parents worked in a steel mill. And but my dad's a good man, hardworking, but he rarely spent time with me on my terms, you know, didn't come to my baseball games, that kind of stuff. And he wasn't very involved in my life. Now, that all seemed normal growing up, but when I hit the wall in Spain because the ministry wasn't fruitful, I realized that I had unwittingly begun to follow a strategy that to feel good about myself, to feel affirmed as a man, to feel like I had value by being fruitful in ministry.
Right.
And when that was taken away, because Spain has fewer Christians per capita than the nation of Japan,
wow.
I just went into this funk. And so I realized I was kind of drinking from a polluted well. And that began a time in my life where I began to take an inside look, you know, and I realized that due to the fact that my dad hadn't affirmed me very much, I moved into manhood without ever really being affirmed as a man. And that's what was going on down beneath the surface.
Not to try to psychoanalyze you, but it seemed like, you know, production, even if it was in a ministry context, you were sort of defining your self-worth or your value based on your fruitfulness in ministry. What I see happening now, and especially the last 2 or 3 years, you have people that you know, had very high-paying jobs that were established in their careers, and some of that has gone away. You know, a nice house in the suburbs, all that stuff that, especially as a male, we get our self-worth based on the career we have, the position we hold, what we drew, what we're able to produce. When that gets stripped away, I think, you know, people come to the same thing that you're talking about.
Exactly. A lot of, especially men, but many women as well, they find their sense of worth and identity in their job. And so when something goes wrong in their job, like for me, not being able to be fruitful, that might be similar to what's happening today, people getting laid off and not being able to find a decent job, then they're no longer able to live the same way inside that they were before. So
with the benefit of hindsight, looking back at this, what do you feel God was doing in your life, the fruit of which is this book? Again, Listening and Inner Healing Prayer by Rusty Rustenbach.
Well, there's a passage where when Jesus started his earthly ministry, he went to the temple in Nazareth, not the synagogue, and he took the scroll. I think it was the day for the reading of the scroll was Isaiah 61. And that goes, the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He sent me to bring healing to the brokenhearted, to set captives free, and to put prisoners in liberty. And
healing to the brokenhearted.
so when you see, this is like the mission statement of the Messiah. And he says, my mission, I'm all about how you're doing on the inside. Now, we tend to think it's just the opposite, that God's really concerned about how we're doing on the outside. But according to that passage, he's really concerned about how we're doing on the inside. And so, as I went through this crisis, I stumbled onto a thing called listening prayer. And listening prayer is the idea of just spending time with God and listening. Now, reading the Word is great as well, but this listening can be, well, there's a passage where Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice. And, but I had never really deliberately listened to God before in my life, and this is after I was a Christian for more than 20 years. And so I went off, got some time alone with God in the foothill. I now live in Colorado Springs, and we have a lot of mountains there. And I went up into the mountains, and I tried this idea of listening to God out. And at first, it was really quiet, and I began to get a little frustrated because I wasn't sure. I thought, well, God might speak to
There wasn't like a burning bush,
No,
or there
right.
wasn't...
Yeah, God might speak to really spiritual men like Billy Graham, but why would he speak to me? And but I waited. I had a little yellow pad of paper, and so some thoughts popped into my mind, and so I wrote them down, and then some more thoughts. Next thing I knew, I'd spend about 2 hours alone with God, listening, and it was one of the best times that I'd had with God for years. And the things that came to me is, Rusty, you didn't really choose me. I chose you.
Wow.
I saw you in Okinawa, and I called you to myself because I cared about how you're doing.
I just had, right now there's a book that's being heavily publicized about the life of Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple.
Yes.
And he was adopted, and the guy who's writing his biography said that in the interviews, he said that kids at the schoolyard would tease him, saying, "Oh, your parents didn't want you. They gave you away. They didn't want you." And he went home crying, but his adoptive mother said, "No, no, no, that's not it. It wasn't that your parents, we chose you. We wanted you."
No,
and that gave him this sense of confidence.
Yes.
And he went on to produce the iPad. But same thing you're talking about, that was an epiphany for you, that God so loved you that he gave his only begotten son, that if you believed in him, he would. That's interesting.
Oh, I think what really happened is God, my perfect Father, began to affirm me as his son. And sort of what I yearned from my biological father would have been that he would have said words like, "Rusty, I'm really for you.
Right.
I love you no matter what you do." Well, that just didn't happen because of my dad's a great man, but he just wasn't able to offer that. And so God, my perfect Father, began to affirm me, and it really started to call me forth as a man. So that was very rewarding. But then I began to work with people doing this listening prayer with them.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the book, and again, the book, I don't know if we can get a close-up of the book, but it's Listening and Inner Healing Prayer by Rusty Rustenbach. A lot of what goes into this book is story after story of different people, because now this is what your journey was and what you went through, but you found you have a new ministry now for those especially that are working in ministry that are coming back and have these same deep hurts and pains, and how do you walk them through that?
Well, truth is, Marty, everyone's wounded. Now, some people are more wounded than others, but everyone has wounds. They went through disappointments and things like that in their childhood. And for instance, this coming weekend, the reason I'm up here in the Northeast is because we're doing a seminar near Boston in a little town called Newton that's a listening and inner healing prayer seminar. And about 60 people will be there. And but yeah, everyone has these wounds. And so what I've begun to do over about the last 12 years is sit with people and explain a little bit what this ministry is about, like we're doing right here, and then begin to listen to God with them. And that's called facilitated healing prayer. So I might prepare for a time of listening first, and then ask a question like, well, Lord Jesus, what area would you like to bring up? Is there an area of emotional pain, say, that Marty's been struggling with, or perhaps something in the last week or two where he's really overreacted to an event, or maybe an area of bondage where Marty doesn't quite feel free. And so we would do this in listening, and you would have a thought come into your mind. And you might even say something, well, I'm not really sure this is God or not, but I had an overreaction last week. Somebody cut me off in traffic, and I got really angry, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so then I might ask, well, Lord, would you now just take Marty back in time to other times when he's really felt angry, or say it was anxiety, other times when Marty was really anxious, just take him back in time and to the first time that he felt that emotion. So you'll say, well, maybe you'll say, well, I'm remembering this time maybe when I was in the 4th grade, and my parents were supposed to pick me up, and they didn't show up for an hour. And so then I might ask the Lord, well, Lord, in the middle of that event, you see, that would be like an event that has abandonment in it.
Right.
What happened inside of Marty? What did he come to believe? And so you might come up, well, I must not have very much value. And these aren't things that you consciously know about. They're more things that are hidden. If you think of an iceberg, I think it's 6/9 or something like that is hidden below the water. These are things that are hidden below the water that you don't even think about, but they influence you nonetheless.
Yeah, you know, as I was reading your book, there was a guy, I go to Walnut Hill Church, and there's a guy that goes to that church, and he grew up in a home where there was alcoholism in the home, and it was very chaotic, and as a young child, he remembers when his dad, in this case, would come home, and it would be a chaotic thing, and he would get in trouble if he did anything wrong. And this is one thing you talk about in the book too, where you make these early childhood vows.
Yes.
You know, and he made this vow, and he can remember as a very small child, I am going to do everything right. I'm not going to have anything out of place in my room because I don't want to give anyone any reason to jump on me. And it's this chaotic alcoholism, you know, parents with alcoholism. And he made that vow at an early age. And it's been a defining vow throughout. I mean, this is a 50-year-old guy, very successful businessman, but he's still held captive to that. When I was reading your book, you talk about how you take these people back, and it could be a defining issue abandoned at school, or trying to unpack or untie some of these early vows. Is that another thing you know about?
Very much so, Marty. It's really not me taking them back. It's really us going back with God. And the cool thing is, see, a person can go to a counselor and pay them, you know, $125 an hour and get the same kind of therapy, so to speak, meaning the counselor asks you a lot of questions, and due to his great analytical skills, he'll try to help you figure out where things went wrong.
But there's no, you know, great physician that can do the final healing.
Well, see, in listening and healing prayer, we want God, who is the wonderful counselor. You know, you get those Christmas cards, Isaiah 9:6, for unto us a child is born, and his name shall be Wonderful Counselor, is one of the names of God. And so God can reveal things that happened in your heart, like that, like a vow. That there's one example in the book, and it's about a guy whose mother grew up in the Depression, and so they had to go out and buy all of their clothing at garage sales. And this was, you know, later she got married and all this. Her husband worked for Eastman Kodak, and they had a swimming pool in the backyard. But they're still going to garage sales. And so this young man who's on our staff came to believe in that I must not have very much value. And so he made a vow.
Well, what's his name? Because he's on a YouTube video,
it's
too.
It's on a YouTube, Bill Tell.
Bill Tell. So Google Bill Tell.
You have to put the word navigators, because otherwise you'll get all William Tell overture.
Navigators. We have, yeah, Bill Tell, and then put the word navigator on that. We actually had it queued up, but I don't know how to put it in the machine. So look it up yourself, but go ahead.
So he made that vow, and then he developed a strategy, and it was, well, the vow was, I will prove to you I have worth.
Right.
And the strategy was I will figure out all of your expectations, and I will meet and exceed them. And so he became a very, very, very successful in everything he put his hand to.
Right.
Now he did the same thing I did. He was a campus worker with the Navigators, except he was in Illinois. Well, because he was so good at it, he just kept getting promoted. He eventually got sent back to our headquarters in big leadership. And he said, eventually I got to the place where there were so many people to please, so many expectations, that he went into a clinical depression and had to go on medication. And he couldn't even control his thoughts during that period. He went on a year-long medical leave, and during that time, is when he began to realize these things that had happened.
Bill Tell.
Yes.
Navigators. Look it up on YouTube. Put in Bill Tell Navigators. It's a really incredible story. Well, in the closing couple minutes that we have, first of all, how can people get in touch with you if they want to go to one of these healing seminars that you have, or what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Probably through my blog. I have a blog. NavPress made a blog for me.
Okay.
And if you see my name here.
Maybe you put the name up on the screen.
My blog is Rusty Rustenbach, all one word, /blogspot.
Okay.
And it's a Google blog, and so we have posts, and people can write in based on the posts that are on the blog, and we could get in touch that way. That would probably be the best way. I don't want to get gazillions of phone calls. So,
well, wait, I have your cell phone right here. You can just call them up at this number. But well, what difference has this made in your ministry, and you know, give us a wrap up of where you're at now.
Well, I would say the primary thing that this has done is given me a much deeper and intimate relationship with God. And a more experiential relationship with God, where I experience His love more deeply. And then it's given me more confidence in working with other people. And it's really transformed my ministry in that basically I do this full time. And I've traveled in cities around the U.S., just got back from Africa. We were training people from 7 different nations in this ministry and other ministries that we call discipleship from the inside out, meaning stuff that's aimed at the stuff that's hidden below the waterline of the iceberg in a person's life. So, so it's really enhanced my ministry, so quality of my relationship with Christ and my ministry, and I just would say I'm at a much better place than I used to be.
You know, it's interesting. There's a verse in 2 Corinthians that talks about, you know, God is a God of comfort who will comfort you so that you are able to comfort others. And I think looking back, hearing your story, if you hadn't gone through that time in Spain, that desert type experience, and have you get in touch with the depths of this healing that you're talking about, I think is Isaiah 61, is that what it's what? You wouldn't have this ministry. So looking back, maybe the pain of Spain has borne fruit in this way.
No, I agree. I think God did far more in me in those years in Spain than He did through me, and He was preparing me for something, but I didn't know He was.
The book again, Listening and Inner Healing Prayer. The author is Rusty Rustenbach, and you can go to his blog. Just go Rusty Rustenbach /blog or something like that. Blogspot. You'll find it, and get in touch with that, because God wants to meet you right where you're at. You don't have to act like you got it all together, or that you're the most successful guy in the world. He came so that He could heal the brokenhearted. So get in touch with that, and I just want to thank you again for coming in. All the way from Colorado. Last thought?
Just one thought on the blog, the actual name of the blog that will come up, it will say the Listening to God Forum. That way you'll know. Then you click on that, and that's the blog.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate you coming in. And
Thank you for having me, Marty.
Glad I met you. That it seems like 3 weeks ago, but you tell me it was 30 years.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Listen, stay tuned to the Marty Heiser Show. We're going to be right back with some more stuff. Who knows what it is? Just stay tuned. What else are you going to do? Sit there, watch the show. It'll be a lot of fun. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the Marty Heiser Show. You know, I put a lot of time and effort to this because I have the same jacket and the same tie. Truth be known, I only have 3 ties and 2 jackets, so it really wasn't that hard. But here we are live. We are coming to you live from Comcast Studios, 5 Shelter Rock Road in Danbury. And I really appreciate Rusty Rustenbach. Probably you gleaned from the show. I've known him for a long time, and I hope that you benefit from that book he wrote on healing prayer. Rusty is a great guy, and he's kind of one of my heroes in the faith. Next up, I am delighted to welcome Drew Berman.
Thank you.
You've written this book, and I'm going to hold this book up on camera number 2, and they're going to focus in on it for a long time. This book, among other things, and I read every word, I underlined the good parts, but it talked a lot about network marketing. Yeah. And by the way, if you want to join us and join the show, you can call in live, 438-2003. 438-2003 if you want to ask the author some questions. But tell me a little bit about network marketing. What does it mean? Should people be afraid of it? Has it been a great enhancer to your life? What is network marketing?
For me, it's the best form of democracy and business that exists. It's the only way to get compensated is if you help and contribute to other people's lives. Mm-hmm. The only way to get paid in network marketing is if you help others succeed first. Mm-hmm. And it's the way the business works is you reach down to grab people to help them up, and you reach up, because you're always looking for help to go to the next level. And one of the things I wrote in the book, which why network marketing, it's just right on the very, very front, where we talk about what the industry really is. And what it is, literally, it's a profession with no boss, no employees, no long commutes, no traffic jams, no cost of entry barrier. Right. Certainly no educational requirements, little to no overhead expenses, little to no risk, no limits to growth, no begging for raises, no need for real estate capital, no demographic barriers.
Right, right.
Huge tax advantages, no shipping, no inventory, little to no customer service.
Right, right, right.
No product development, and a supportive team that you choose and that chooses you, with teammates who share common goals and dreams.
All right, so I mean, this sounds like, you know, almost borderline too good to be true. But before we get to that, I want to know a little bit more about you. Now, in this book, and by the way, how can people get this book?
Well, it's on Amazon, of course, and on Berman.com. That's where I kind of live in my virtual space. So the name of the book is called You Online, You Offline.
Okay.
How to make a fortune in network marketing. So we built a business offline, a pretty huge, successful international empire offline, and then took the game online. So if you go to drewberman.com, you can actually meet with me online, and then we can actually have an offline discussion. And often what I do in real life is I'll meet someone at a coffee shop and I'll get them to the website, or I'll create a blog, create a lead flow, and then meet someone for coffee. So I teach people how to do both online and offline, and it becomes like a really nice partnership. Yeah.
Let's back up the clock a little bit. You grew up in Fresh Meadows, New York. You attended George Washington University.
I did.
You were a high-flying real estate agent in New York City, where you met your lovely wife.
That's right.
After college, you went on a bicycle ride around the world, and then you made your way to this marketing. Tell us a little bit, first of all, about the bike trip around the world, and then marketing or real estate in New York City, and how you met your wife.
We could be here for a couple days.
That's right. Go ahead. And while you do that, I'm going to hold up a picture of your lovely wife and your children.
That's my wife Corey, who's watching. I love you, honey, and my 2 boys. Tyler is 7.
Okay.
Noah is 2.
But tell us how you ended up here.
How I ended up here. So it was a hot sunny day in July 1972. That's when I was born. Fast forward, went to Stuyvesant High School in Manhattan, George Washington University, graduated in '94. I didn't go to one career fair. I grew out a beard, I grew out a ponytail, and I drove cross country with my buddies from high school. So we did an 11-week, 8-guy 3-car road trip around the country after college.
Okay.
Got my first
on your
job.
bicycle?
No.
This
That's
is
a
just
car
driving.
ride. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
did cross country trip. Then
Right.
got my first job out of school a year later. I graduated in May. Got my first job in March. Did China crystal and cookware for 3 years. Sold to groups of girls and then engaged women. And that was a great business. And then it got really, really competitive within. Okay. So I started exploring some health fairs, and I started working less in China and crystal and more in healthy cooking and juicing. I found a bike company that was doing the Boston to New York AIDS ride. Tanqueray produced it, and I ended up doing 4 rides, Boston to New York 3 times, North Carolina to DC. We raised $10,000 for AIDS services, and I became a cyclist.
Okay.
In '97, I found a brochure of an organization called Odyssey 2000. It was a bike ride around the world. It had never been done before. It was done by a professional biking company.
Right.
And I did January 1st, 2000 to January 1st, 2001, a 35-country bicycle tour with 200 people. And it was an unbelievable journey. And we did 35 countries. Some highlights were riding a bike from Johannesburg to Cape Town, which took 30 days along the coast of South Africa and hills of Norway. And
you were 28 years old.
28 years old, yeah.
Were you married?
No, my girlfriend
Footloose
Corey.
and fancy free.
Well, my girlfriend Corey at the time, who we did real estate with in the late '90s, I ended up coming back after the ride. And marrying her, and that's my wife. And that's my wife in the picture. Yeah.
Okay. So from there, and you mention it in the book a little bit. You stumbled onto Amway.
Amway.
Okay, because I think when people think about network marketing, they sort of gravitate towards Amway. I know there's a lot of other. I know it's a big business, but Amway seems to be the sort of I don't know, the entry drug to the whole thing.
It's right. You're right. There's 5.
What was that like?
We call them the big 5.
Okay.
Amway, Shackley, Avon, Mary Kay.
Yeah,
and then
the pink cars.
And pink cars, exactly. And well, it was 4 or 5. And then, so there were some giants in the industry. And Amway really transformed the industry. Started in 1959. They won all their lawsuits. They never had, they had challenges in the beginning, 50s, 60s, 70s.
What would the lawsuit be?
Because at the beginning, it wasn't unheard of. What happened was, in 1959, the vitamins that they came out with were so strong, so powerful. It was a superfood technology. It never had been invented before. So it required an education. It couldn't just be sold in stores. So through education, someone would educate someone, who would educate someone else, who would educate someone else. So when they went and fought about the industry, they proved it to be a legitimate business. And they've done billions of dollars around the globe and helped a lot of people make a lot of money.
Not just health items.
Yeah.
But
what happened with Amway, the American way, it became a mall of shopping under your own store. And it got, I think their heyday was 60s, 70s, 80s. I won't say anything bad about Amway. I thought it was a great corporation. I worked at 2001 to 2005. And I just couldn't turn it into an income. It became very expensive, and I traveled around, and I learned a lot, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
You mentioned in your book, you do quote some of the materials that you gleaned.
Some of the best reading.
What was it like? Ship. There was something like on page 39. What do you call it? It says, and this is getting into the network marketing, to, no friends, no business.
Oh, right,
no friends.
Yeah,
Then no friends, no friends, no business.
Yeah.
And it talks about that you're really in the people business and that your business is all about relationships. And you quoted the Amway thing saying, both friendship and relationship ends with ships, and ships are meant to be in motion.
Exactly.
And the relationships, that's what gets you from where you are to where you want to be.
Did I write that? That's good stuff.
Like I said, I underlined the good parts in this book, but that's what you seem to focus on a lot. And whether it's Amway's or Shackley's or Mary Kay Cosmetics, this concept of network marketing is really what you get into. And if you're in sales or anything, you should pick up this book. It's really very informative. It kind of pumps you up a bit if you're in sales. But talk a little bit about that network marketing, where it's the relationships, and then also tell me how from Amway you ended up with Isogenics.
Isogenics, yeah. So network marketing. A network is a group of common thinking folks who have similar dreams, desires, and goals. It's a network.
Right.
Marketing is presenting opportunities or business or products through that network. And then we have a constantly expanding network. And we're constantly marketing within that network, and it's constantly growing and constantly expanding. So 5 years in Amway, I had enough. I couldn't turn it into an income. Went back into sales, regular sales, selling advertising sales. And then a man in 2005, this is great, December 2005, holiday card said, "Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, it's time to cleanse." And my business partner and I were like, what? And he had ended up actually losing 40 pounds and 8 inches off his waist. And my business partner said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll try it. And if it works for me, you do it. So I'm like, okay, great. He tried it. He lowered his cholesterol 20 points, and he lost his double chin. And as you know, you can't suck in your double chin, right?
You can't. I've tried. And you pick it up on TV. By the way, the phone number here is 438-2003. If you have a question for our guest, feel free to call in. And caller, you have a question for the guest?
Hi there. Well, I have more of a comment. My name is Henry Sobo. I know Drew. I'm a physician. I'm practicing at Stanford. And I did the isogenics program that he's talking about tonight. And I loved it. I got a lot of benefit out of it. I lost 35 pounds, and I recommend it to my patients.
How, you say you lost 35 pounds. How long did it take you to lose 35 pounds?
It was less than 2 months.
Wow. And you say you're a physician, so this isn't stuff that's going to, hurt you physically or something like that. You can really advocate this.
Yeah, I'm 50. I was 56 this year, and I did it a year before that. And frankly, I felt better than it had been. I felt in quite a long time. It is much more than just some kind of weight loss product. It's an overall product that, for health purposes, goes way beyond just something to lose weight.
Okay, now you're not a relative of Drew. Drew isn't paying you any money. He doesn't owe you a favor. This is like an unsolicited endorsement of what they're doing.
Well, I also am associated with Drew as well, so I'm going to be completely open about that. But I tried it myself, and that's why I use it.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for calling in. Again, the phone number here is 438-2003. If you ever dated Drew and have a bad experience, now's your time. Call in right now. You can get him on live TV. If you've done this product and it's worked out good for you, then do that as well. Call in. But okay, so you started. So
my buddy tried the program, lost his double chin. It was amazing. My dad said, "All right, I'm ready. I'll try." And my dad actually released 56 pounds, 24 points on his blood pressure, and 18 points on his blood sugar.
Wow.
So my doctor said what you just said. He said, "Wow." So he said, now my chiropractor at the time said I was adjusting better, and that he wanted the program. He started looking at the ingredients, and he started talking to me about MSM and folic acid. I didn't know what any of this stuff was. He said, you got to overnight this stuff to me because it has joint lubricator. I'm like, okay. So I overnighted it to my chiropractor. He lost 12 pounds in 9 days. And I gave it to my lawyer. I said, listen, I'm really considering, partnering up with this company. Check it out. And if it's good, we'll both do it. And he did it, and this was 06, and he said it looked like a $65 million a year company. And he said he was in. So my doctor on board, my lawyer on board, my dad's great results. I flew cross country to meet the owners. They had the 100-pound club, people who were at least 100 pounds.
Right.
A man and women were standing in the man's old pants. In fact, it was unbelievable. And then they had the athletes. So they went from 100-pound weight release to supreme athletes. If you can get a close-up of that, we have binders full of this. I mean, binders and binders and binders and binders full of before and after pictures. So I started spreading the word. Then I got into the business aspect of health distribution, right? I started telling everybody. And I told enough people that in 10 months, I was able to replace my full-time income.
In the book, you talk about as you progressed in this program, as far as the income was concerned, you went from what you were making in a month, you were making that in a week.
That's right.
That sounds. I mean, I'm like Joe Guy that has a dopey cable TV show. So I'm a little reluctant. This isn't a paid advertisement. I know you live in my hometown. We have a mutual friend and stuff like that. But there may be some that are a little bit skeptical because there's other stuff like, was it like Fresh Meadow or something like that? Lose weight now, ask me how, and there's a lot of these other people that make these claims. But I did a little research on you and on this product, and you know, Google is incredible because you can Google this, and there have been news reports about it, and generally speaking, it's a pretty favorable review. And what you're seeing here on these photographs are common. I mean, it's not unusual that this happens.
Well, let me show you what happened. So I brought you a gift today. This is called our Invigorate, Refresh, Replenish, Cleanse. It's our 5-piece sample pack, and this is our top-selling products. So I wanted you to sample one. You can do it live, and I'll give you a little tour. There's a cookie in there. There's a bar. There's a little super
Slim cakes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get a close-up of my double chin. Let's see if it miraculously. Once I eat this double chin will go away.
It's a magic cookie. You're gonna feel 10 years younger.
Whoa! Look at that. It's gone. Oh, this is kind of tasty.
Yeah. So we have.
I mean, again, I'm not a doctor or anything like that.
Yeah.
But does all this stuff, you know, give you the skitters or something like that? And that's the idea. I mean, this whole cleansing idea. I mean, we know what we're talking about here. We're adults.
Well,
we can talk about this in a mature fashion.
And I have these conversations 10, 20 times a week. You know, I've been doing this now. I'm in 6 years. I've told 300 people that what we do, and the 300 people has grown to 15,000 people around the world. So I've seen well over
15,000 people in your
group? Yeah, 15,000 people in my organization. That's right. Yeah, and it's been a blessing from the get-go. And it's a natural organic superfood. It floods the body with the proteins needed to thrive, and it also cleanses out the toxins and impurities. You eat that, you'll be hooked for life. That's our super chocolate. It's not a candy. It's a super chocolate. It's infused with amino acids. It gives you a nice little euphoric sensation. You can only have 4 a day because it's not a candy. It comes in dark chocolate.
So this gives you a little bit of a boost.
Oh, it's like.
All right, caller, you're on the air. Do you have a question for our guest?
Hi, Marty. It's Jennifer Southworth.
Oh, hey, Jen. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just was watching your show.
What do you think? Did you see that the first guy in the first half of the show?
You know what? I saw the tail end of it, which was really cool. I wish I had seen the whole thing. I had no idea.
That's right. You can watch it on YouTube. All right, Jen. Now you're all up in this isogenics thing. What's your experience been with Drew in particular, and with the product in general?
Well, with Drew, I have had a lovely experience. I haven't spent as much time with him as my husband has. He has been a blessing in our family in that he has taken us under his wing and helped us to get our business started. And that's what I have just loved about this company, is that it really is what he was saying on TV, that it's all about relationships.
Now, have you tried these products, the cookies, the chocolates, and all that stuff?
The cookie, I love. When I saw you open it, I thought, okay, I can't wait anymore. I have to call.
It's good. Slim Oaks are good.
Slim cakes.
All right, so now,
Slim cakes, not Slim Oaks.
I'm sorry. It's a
Slim
C.
cakes.
It's C.
Yeah, it's a C.
Yeah. I need my glasses. Hold on. I'll be darned. It is Slim Cakes. There it is. Okay, now, Jen, you guys are throwing in with this, and you're going to make a go of it. What have your initial reaction been to being part of this network marketing plan?
It has been fabulous. I didn't really think I would ever want to do such a thing, and I was skeptical at first, as Doug will tell you, and but it didn't take long because I'm a food Nazi in my house. I really watch all the ingredients, and I like to eat well, and when I started reading the ingredients, I was just thrilled. And every experience, every step of the way, with every person, with the company, has been just phenomenal. I can't say enough about it, and we're thrilled to be a part of it.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for calling in, and thanks for that unalloyed endorsement. All right, I'll see you at the Super Bowl party.
Absolutely.
All right, can I give out your address if anyone doesn't have somewhere to go? Look it up. Come to Jen's house. Just ask for Jen in Ridgefield. Everyone knows her. All right, thanks, Jen. Well, there's another person you brought along here.
That's what we do all day, every day. The days are filled with thanks and gratitude and people wanting to get healthy. And Jen's actually goal is to double her salary, which is amazing. And we can help people do that. Some people come in with pinky toe and they make $500, $1,000 a month, and they just kind of dabble as a part-time little gig. And sometimes people treat it seriously, make $500, $1,000, a week.
Let me just talk on kind of a macro level, because the economy has been pretty bad for people.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people out there right now that may have lost their jobs. They've been a 2-income family. They're down to 1 income. But they have a mortgage, they have kids, they have that. I mean, I really don't want this to turn into sort of some sort of, glossy infomercial kind of thing, because it really isn't. I mean, we want to be objective here and not paint too rosy a scenario.
Yeah.
But is this type of marketing, and not just this product, the Isagenix, and by the way, those chocolates are very good, the Slim Cakes are very good. What is this?
That's a Want More Energy stick. It comes in 3 flavors.
So
that is kind of like your vitamin B boost. It'll be like after working out, the 4 o'clock crash.
Those and then the fiber snacks.
Oh, the fiber bars are incredible. I've been having like literally 1 a day. They come in 2 flavors. It's just kind of like a nice pocket snack.
Okay.
Instead of reaching for a Snickers bar, you reach for something healthy.
Okay, but back to the thing. With the economy in trouble and people are looking for extra income, is this something that they can really make a go of it, or are they going to like kind of alienate all their friends and not really make a lot of money? And what can happen?
There's some myths in network marketing, obviously. Some of the stuff what you're saying has background and has truth. And the truth of the matter is, it is a business. So just like Pepsi and IBM and Nike, their business is based on 3 Ps. Product, people, and profit. And the more products that flow through the people, the more profits made. Same thing with Isagenix. There's this thing with Isagenix is it happens to be a superfood. It happens to be good for you. It happens to be consumable. People like it. They want more. So if you get people to like your product and then want more, then they buy it again. If people are going to buy it again, people who treat it seriously can create a residual income. So my income went from active, non-passive income, which means I went to work, I got paid, I stopped working, stop getting paid. With Isagenix, the income that comes in tends to come in over and over. So once you build it, it kind of takes on a momentum. Now, it is a business. Do some people struggle? Absolutely. Do some people hit it out of the park immediately? Yes. So depending on what skills you bring to the table, Isagenix brings a great product, a great marketing, a great comp plan, great teams to work with, great training.
Okay, but you talk a little bit about your warm market and your cold market, and your warm market are people that you know, friends, family, people at your house of worship, that kind of thing, and you want to develop them and get them all on it, and then your cold market is, through networks like Facebook and stuff like that. But when you do this, is the idea that when you sign up someone, if you sign up, the butcher, baker, and candlestick maker, then everything they sell, you get a piece of it, and then you just build it up, build it up, build it up.
Yeah, it works under the franchise model. Just like when McDonald's exploded and Wendy's and Dunkin' Donuts, if you own a company and you figure it out systematically how it works, and then you share it with someone else and you teach them everything that you know, you get a small percentage of their growth in their business. And then you teach it, teach it, teach it.
So who like got you?
Who got me?
Yeah.
Well, as I was saying.
Give me a first name. What's his name?
Bill.
Bill. Okay, so Bill got you.
By walking into my office, 40 pounds lighter and 8 inches off his waist.
Okay, so Bill ate this stuff. He lost a bunch of weight. He sees you. He says, hey, I got a great product for you. So now everything that you sell, Bill is getting a cut.
Correct.
Okay, and then you want to be the Bill to Doug.
Right.
And then everything they do, and then now does Bill have someone above him that gets a cut, and then he gets a cut of you and everyone?
Yeah, the company started 10 years ago, and has currently co-created 62 millionaires. So it's amazing. So people are getting healthy first. What I love about Isagenix is it wasn't a business built and let's create a comp plan and now let's create a product. It was a product born organically that they sent to 500 people that had amazing, miracle, magical results. Weight loss, better skin, better sleep, better focus, better energy, better sex drive, better skin. And then they did 19 million in 9 months. And they did more than Nike did in their first 30 months. Isagenix did more than Nike did in their first 5 years.
All right, well, and this can really work. I mean, like, people should look into it. I don't know if you have your website or something like that. I don't know if you
can find me at drewberman.com and
just Google Drew Berman. If you Google it, a lot of stuff comes up.
If you Google me, a lot of stuff will come up. That's true. In fact, I have a T-shirt that says Google me. But if you Google me, a lot of stuff will come up. And whether you want to come on board as a customer, no problem. If you're training for an athletic event, we can help you. If you want to lose 3 pounds or 103, we can help you. We have a 100-pound club. We have a 200-pound club. And if I can answer any questions about marketing or online or the book, it's all at drewberman.com.
Well, the one thing about this book, and I did read the whole thing, it is interesting because I think some of the network marketing that you talk about, like there's a couple little sort of catchphrases, no friends, no business, and this whole idea of building a community.
Yeah.
That you're actually doing business with people that you like and you enjoy their company. You have a winning team that's fun, and it's a fun environment, and it's friendship. You'll have everything in life that you want if you help enough people get what they want. And focus on people, focus on helping people. And I think it's good. You even talk about, don't manipulate, which is not cool. I love how you use those big words. Show them by example. It's kind of caught, not taught. Best friends are part of your business and making friends. And, I think like you go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting and you see real estate agents, you go to businesses, guys selling insurance, and they're talking about that same thing, networking. In this case, you're selling these products, which are good. But I think you can get a lot of help out of this book just talking about that building of community.
Appreciate that. You online, you offline. It's a national bestseller on Amazon, so I appreciate your words, and I hope people read it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, listen, thank you very much for coming in.
Appreciate it so
much. Appreciate it
Thank
very
you.
much. Join us again. We have some pretty exciting shows coming up. We have Christopher Shays coming in, former longtime congressman from Connecticut, who is, if you haven't heard by now, running for the U.S. Senate. He'll be right here on our show and answering your questions and talking about his bid for Senate. He's going against that dastardly Linda McMahon, who, well, just Google her and you'll see a bunch of videos and championship wrestling and so forth. Join us for that. And also we have the Sons of Abraham coming in. They're a motorcycle gang. Think ZZ Top meets Easy Rider meets Billy Graham. It's going to all unfold right here on the studio, so we have some pretty exciting shows coming up. And also the Danbury Whalers, they've won 7 out of the last 8 games. You've seen a bunch of those shows with them on. A fine group of young men that go out and hit each other for a living. And join us for that too. So we will see you again next week on the Marty Heiser Show, where you always get the truth. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it so much.
I'm told that we have 30 seconds left, and so what I'm going to do is an interesting hand trick. You go like this, and then look at that. Your hands go back and forth, back and forth. And if you do that for 30 seconds, you can end a show on cable TV. So thanks again for joining us, the Marty Heiser Show, and we'll see you next week. Good night.